News that came out of that really was at the top of the remarks. Remember, the event was called in the Oval because of the swearing in of Tulsi Gabbard as the Director of National Intelligence. But the president, in taking questions from reporters, got into a whole slew of different topics. At the beginning, what he was talking about was the possibility of peace in Ukraine, finally, after all of these years. He says he's spoken today both with the Russian President Putin and also with President Zelenskyy of Ukraine. He says, by his telling, that they both want peace, that they both want the war to end, and that he will meet in short order with Putin in Saudi Arabia. Correspondent at large Geraldo Rivera here as our coverage continues on NewsNation Now. Has been listening in and joins the conversation now. Hey, Geraldo. So,
hey,
boy,
Connell.
I wonder if today's a big day, and if today is the day we'll look back and say, all right, there was a breakthrough there on Ukraine. How do you read it?
Boy, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
You know what I get, basically, the biggest picture is this is not the same Trump as Trump 45. This guy is much more confident. He seems to have a grasp of the facts that he did not have. He's on his front foot. He's on his back foot. He was being assailed on all sides, Russia. I think that it really eroded his swagger that I think is being put to great effect, not just with these international deals that are monumental, but also in dealing with Elon Musk and the remaking of the federal government. I am enormously impressed, I have to say. Now, if I was President Zelenskyy right now, wonderful person, I mean, for everything I know about him, who was one of those heroic national leaders of our time. I remember when he said, I don't want you to ride out. I don't need you to evacuate me. I need you to supply me with ammunition at the beginning of the war when he stymied the Russian offensive that was supposed to sweep through Ukraine in 3 days. Instead, 3 years later, here we are. What is also comforting to Putin is the president's pledge, which I have never heard before, or certainly not before the last 48 hours, is that the United States does not support Ukraine's membership in NATO. If Ukraine is not a member of NATO, then it becomes pretty clear to everyone that after all of these deaths, 1.5 million on the Russian side, almost 1 million on the Ukrainian side, that finally there's a recipe with some territorial concessions that the conservatives support that may be an end to that wretched war. And wouldn't it be nice if President Trump ends Ukraine, ends Gaza, and wins the Nobel Peace Prize? I'm all for it, because when he does well, we do well.
Now,
who says that?
Like
an insurance company.
Right, exactly. Sounds like a commercial. The territorial concessions, though, are going to be part of this, right? I mean, that is. We were talking about this earlier before the president came on, and some people who have been, on one side said there's no way, you can't give any of the land. But this seems like a different administration, a different approach, and that will be part of this, don't you think?
I definitely do. It sticks in my craw. I hate the notion that Russia wins anything from waging this unjust war and killing and disrupting so many civilian lives. But the Russians have occupied Donbass continuously, the easternmost province in Ukraine, and that region that really is surrounded by Mother Russia. I'm not Ukrainian. It's not for me to say, but just sensibly, it just seems appropriate that there should be some DMZ, like between the Koreas, where international forces can have some presence to keep the sides apart, and as a guarantee that Russia won't just invade a week or two after the deal is done. But I am, Connell, I'm telling you, very impressed that even here, even in Ukraine, Russia, there is what seems to be movement. These prisoners long held being released, gestures by Putin. Let's meet in Saudi Arabia. Let's hang out with the Crown Prince. I like that. So in my view, I feel for the Department of Education workers and all the other federal employees whose lives are so disrupted. It is also very apparent just from the dicta that we hear from Musk and those who support him that they're finding an awful lot of fat and get it away from the muscle of the federal government, Connell.
Supposedly they're going to have a news conference, the president said, about that tomorrow. Thanks so much for watching. Just go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.